So hello everybody, and today we're going to be creating our first app in MIT App Inventor. So let's get started. So our first app is going to be a game called Coin Collect. It's a game where a person will be able to walk around and collect coins, and collect as many coins as they can in 30 seconds. So let's start. Click on Start a New Project. Let's call our project Coin Collect. And okay. And now here's our app. So let's divide what we need to do into 3 tasks. First, we need to be able to create a way to make the person move around. Second, we need to make a way for the coins to appear on the canvas or on the screen, and then the person should be able to move and collect them. And third, there should be a scorekeeping and the timing device. And in the end, it should notify the user that their time is up and what score they got. So let's get started. So the way to move an object is by using a component called a canvas, which you can find in the drawing and animation part. So if you drag a canvas onto your screen, let's set our height of the canvas to around, let's say around 75%. And the width should be the width of the whole screen, which is fill parent. So after we put a canvas there, we need to add another component, a new one called image sprite. What an image sprite is basically you can add an image to it, and you can basically move it around. You can fling it. You can make it bounce off edges. You can do literally anything you want with it, which is basically what we need to do with our character. So let's just place our image sprite right over here. Now the next thing we need to do is look for a character, which can be pretty crude. So let's find a character. Let's say stick figure clip art. Let's see which one looks nice. That guy looks pretty cute. He looks so innocent. So let's save that thing and return back to our app. So after downloading our cute little stick figure man, we need to get it onto our app somehow. So you can do that by going to the media menu at the bottom right and clicking on the button upload file. After doing that, you want to choose file. And you want to find the wherever that stick figure is on your device and choose it. After that, you want to click OK. So after we've uploaded our little man picture to the media menu, we need to click on the image sprite in the components menu and then go to its properties. We need to change its picture to the person. So we click on that and then we choose the man. And there you go. He's terribly oversized, but I'm sure we can fix that. So what we do to fix that, we need to go to the properties section and go to the height and width areas. So let's set the height to maybe like 40 pixels, or maybe let's make it 35. And the width should also be 35 pixels. And there you go. Our little man's on the screen. The next thing we need to do for our project is we need to place 4 buttons on the bottom of our screen so that the user can click on them and then move the little man around. So we could place buttons like this, but the problem is that you can't place buttons next to each other. You have to place them one below the other. So what we could do is that we could actually add a horizontal arrangement. What a horizontal arrangement is that it's a thing that allows you to place components next to each other, and you can find that component in the layout menu. And there you go, horizontal arrangement. So let's drag it onto our app, and let's change the width to fill parent. So now it's across the whole bottom of our app, but we need to put things inside it. So let's go back to the user interface area, and let's choose button. So let's drag 4 buttons onto our horizontal arrangement. 1, 2, 3, and 4. The 4th one goes off the screen, but you know that it's still there in the horizontal arrangement because it's underneath this horizontal arrangement menu in the components menu. So let's change the text from all of the buttons just to blank text. So let's do that quickly. After doing that, we know that the width of our phone screen is basically 100%, and we have 4 buttons. So let's make the width of each button 25%. So width should be 25%. The benefits of using percentage over pixels is that basically it allows for responsive sizing for apps. Maybe on a small phone, 200 pixels might be the width, but on a larger phone, the width might be 1,000 pixels. So that's why you use percent. So let's change these all of these percents 25. Okay. Now we need to put up, down, and left, right arrows. So you can copy those arrows from the internet. They're going to be available and you can just copy them and then paste them in the bottom sections here. So let's do that. So I've gone ahead and copied arrow symbols from the internet. So we have our up, down, left, and right arrows. I've also gone to the components menu and renamed each button. And that's a good habit to form because it allows you to easily understand what each button does. So you can just click on a component and then click rename at the bottom, and you can change the new name over here. So after doing that, the next part is to code it. So let's go to the blocks menu and let's see what we need to do. So what we want to do is let's just try it out with one button. So when the up arrow is clicked, we need our image sprite, which is basically our person, to move upwards. So what we need to do is we need to actually go down here and we need to choose the image sprite 1 Y block. So we need to set our image sprite Y to whatever it is currently -5. So let's do that. Okay. The reason why I'm doing minus is because for some reason MIT App Inventor, it tells you to move, Y basically goes from the highest value is at the top, and the lowest value is at the top, and the highest value is on the bottom. So we're going to set our image sprite 1 Y to whatever it is right now -5. So it's going to move 5 pixels up. So we want to take our image sprite 1 Y block right over here, -5. So we go to the math menu and we choose 5. We'll change 0 to 5. So now let's test out our app. So let's test out what we've done so far. So let's click on the MIT App Companion app and scan QR code. So let's scan that QR code and wait to see our app pop up on the screen. And there you go. Okay, so there's our person. He's slightly a bit deformed, probably because he needs to be increased in height. So let's remember that. So now we created the block setting for up. So let's see what happens when we click the up arrow. He is moving up. Now let's try holding down the up arrow because it is kind of annoying to keep clicking it over and over again. He doesn't move. He only moves once, and that's when we let go. So we need to create a way for our up arrow, when we hold down any arrow, it should move in that direction. So let's work on that next. So we're back at our app, and before working out our button issue, we need to first work out a small kink in our little man. So our little man looks a little bit too wide. So let's change his height to maybe around 43 pixels, or maybe let's say 46. Let's change its width to maybe, let's make it a little bit smaller, maybe like around 33 pixels. So that should make him much nicer next time we test out our app. So now the way we're going to solve this button problem is going to be by using a sensor or a component called a clock. So you can find it in the sensors menu on the palette. Clock, there you go. So what a clock basically is used for mainly in MIT App Inventor is that it's something that can always fire, or it's always triggered by its interval. Let's just make that a bit more simple. The timer interval is basically measured in milliseconds. So 1,000 interval is basically 1 second. So every second, the event timer fired is always proven to be true. So we can access that event in the blocks menu. So clock 1 timer. So basically, whenever the timer goes off, it's gonna trigger this event, which is pretty useful when you wanna make something in a loop or hold it on for a long time. So let's choose that. Now, what we need to do is we need to make our clock, whenever our button is clicked on, we need to enable the timer so that when the timer keeps firing, it's going to keep moving the person up. When we lift up our finger from the button, the timer enable is going to be set to false, which basically stops the person from moving. So let's work that out. So first of all, when we need to go to our screen menu and we need to choose the event screen 1 initialize. That means whenever our whenever our app is initialized or whenever it started. So whenever it started, we need our clock to be set to false, like that timer enabled. So we scroll down past all these time measuring units, and we need to choose set clock 1 timer enabled. And we want to actually set it to false because we don't want it to fire. So then now when somebody presses down on the up button, it should basically turn on the timer. So we'll go to the up menu and we'll say when up touch down. So whenever up will be touched down, we want to set clock 1 timer enabled to true. So let's do that, and then let's change this drop down to true. Next, we need to put a command that whenever the up button is touched up or whenever it's let go, it's going to stop the timer. So we'll go back to the up menu and then we're going to touch up. And we can change this to whatever is right here, which is timer enabled to false. So we no longer need our up click action. So let's just delete that. So now what we've done is we're going to center our up and down movement around this clock. So when clock 1 timer, or whenever it fires due to the button being pressed down, we need to do this command. And it's going to do that repetitively. But the main idea here is that actually in the designer menu, we need to change our timer interval to something way smaller, like 35 milliseconds. Because if it's 1,000, the person is going to move 5 pixels every second, which is very slow and it's ineffective. So now we need to replicate this for all of our other blocks. So let's do that quickly. So when up, so we also need to, before doing that actually, we need to get more clocks because we don't want them to interfere with each other. So let's go back to the designer menu and add 3 more clocks, 1, 2, and 3. Now back to the blocks menu and let's quickly add this. We'll replicate the same thing for all of our other blocks. Okay, so now I've done quite a few things. So let's go over what I did. So basically we had our touch up and touch down events for our up arrow. So now I added more events for down, left, and right, and respectively for the clocks too, clock 2, clock 3, and clock 4. I also went to the screen 1 initialize event and made sure that all of our clocks were set to false before the app was started. Before we started playing our game. Next, I took our timer events and I changed them to 2, 3, and 4. And then I changed them accordingly because, like clock 2, which is our up down arrow, needs to have our Y's to be added 5 so that we move down. Same thing with 3 and 4, but this time on the x-axis, -5 and +5, left and right respectively. Next, we need to go to the designer menu, and what I did was I changed our timer intervals right over here in the properties section for each clock. And now let's see how well our app works on our phone. So let's see that. So now I opened up our app on the MIT AI Companion. So our little man looks way better than before now. And let's see if this works. So let's first hold down the down arrow. And there you go. He is moving according to our arrows. Now you may wonder what happens if he runs into an edge. Nothing happens. He just stays there. He can't go any farther. And the great part is to add using this type of logic is that the person can also move in diagonal ways. For example, if I hold the up arrow and the left arrow at the same time, he moves in a diagonal way. So now the next part we need to do is to add coins in our canvas so that the little man can go around and collect them. So let's get started with that. Okay, so after a successful test, we're back at our app. So now the next thing we need to implement in our app is a coin system, where the character can go around and collect coins. Whenever he reaches a coin, it's going to respawn, but it's going to give him a point. So he has to get as many points as he can in that 30-second time frame. So let's get working on our coin. So we need to first get a picture of a coin off the internet, and I did that. And I also uploaded it to our media section right here, coin. So now what we need to do is we want our coin to be on the canvas. So we need to go back to the drawing and animation menu, and we need to choose image sprite. So let's just drag our image sprite to a random place. Now, once again, like how we did with the little man, we need to change the picture of the image sprite to coin. And once again, it's just like the little man, it enlarged in size. So let's just make it way smaller. Let's maybe make it around 15 pixels by 15 pixels. That should do it. Okay, there you go. So now our coin is in the middle of our app. So now it's time to code our coin. So let's go to the blocks menu and let's think about what type of logic we need. So whenever the little person reaches the coin needs to respawn in a random place. So the function that we're going to use to let it respawn in a random place is in the math area. It's called random integer from 1 to 100. Now, this is really useful because it's going to choose a random integer between those 2 points, or whatever numbers that we specify, and then it's going to spawn according to the x and y that it chooses. So instead of putting 100, we're going to choose canvas 1 width or height, depending upon where we're putting it, so that it doesn't spawn only within 100 pixels range, because a phone screen could be more than 100 pixels. So before we do all of this, we want our coin to spawn in a random place when our app is started. So we need to find the screen 1 initialize function. So let's go over here, and there you go, screen 1 initialize. Now we need to choose the image sprite 2 because that's our coin, and we need to find move to x and y. So we're gonna drag that over there, and then we're going to go back to the math menu, and we're going to get that random integer block. So let's put that there. But instead of putting 100, we need to change it to canvas 1 width because the x-axis goes across. So we need to choose that, and we need to find canvas 1 width. Let's find that. There you go. So after finding the canvas 1 width, we need to replicate this for the y-axis. But instead of canvas 1 width, we need to change it to canvas 1 height. Now, there's a function that we can take control of, and that's whenever another image sprite touches another. That's going to be useful because when our little man ever reaches a coin, then the coin should respawn in a different place using this function right over here, and then it needs to add a point to his score. So let's initialize a score variable where we can basically store our score. So let's say initialize global score to 0 because it's going to be a number. Now, we can go to whenever image 1 collided with. That means whenever it touches or collides with another sprite. Specifically for our case, it's the coin. So whenever it collides with another coin, we basically need to take our current score, and then we need to take that score and then add 1 to it. We can't just do set current score to 1 because then that wouldn't work if we had more than 2 coins that collected so far. So what we need to do is we need to find the plus operation. We need to change this to score right there, and then we need to add 1. So let's change that 0 to 1. So now it's going to add another, basically another point to the person's score. And now next, we need to call this function over there because we want our image sprite to move to another location. So let's just copy that, and let's just paste it again, and let's drag it over there. So we need to add a label to our app to display our user's score. So let's go to the designer menu, and let's go to user interface, and let's choose label. Now, after choosing that, let's just set the text to blank. And let's maybe set our height of the label to maybe around 5%. And the width should be fill parent. So now what we need it to do is that whenever it collides with another, the person collides with a coin, we needed to update its score. So what we need to do is we need to set the label 1's text. So let's find the text to the score. But our user might be confused by what these numbers might be. So we need to put score followed by a colon and then the user's score. So let's go to the text menu, and let's choose a text box that says score. But now how are we going to add our variable to this? So that's why we need to use the join block. The join block can join basically two texts, and let's just join those. So now the user is going to know what his score is. But in the beginning, the label is going to be blank because the little man hasn't collided with any coins. So we need to actually go to our screen one initialize, and we need to we need to basically put this again over there. So let's do that. Now we can leave it like this because whenever the screen one initializes, the score is going to automatically be set to 0. So the user is going to know that their score is 0. So now let's test out our app. So now I've opened up my app in MIT App Inventor. So let's see how well this works. So let's move the little man around, and you can see the coin over there. So let's try to collect it. Oh, and it disappeared, and at the top left you can see that the score says 1. And again, scores 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's a successful test for our app. So that's it for today's video. In the next video, or part 2 of this project, we're going to be creating a way in which the user has a time limit to collect as many coins as they can in, and a way of knowing when the user has won, and a reset button. Stay tuned!